I'll ask for a motion to approve the agenda, please. Deputy Mayor Quinn, seconded by Councillor King. On the question, all those in favor? Aye. Opposed? Motion carries. Are there any conflicts of interest this evening? Seeing none, we'll move into the agenda. There's two series of bylaw items, both regarding the two downtown BIAs and their budgets for 2023. The first is a series of 4 motions regarding the downtown Newcastle business improvement area. Councillor Duplessis.
Thank you. I move that the council approves the 2023 budget submitted by the Newcastle Business District identifying expenditures of $82,400.
Seconded by Councillor Ross Robinson. On the question. Councillor Duplessis.
Oh, no,
sorry. Okay, seeing nothing. All those in favor? Aye. Opposed? Motion carries. Next is a motion, second motion on the matter. Councillor Duplessis.
I move that bylaw number 69-21, Business Improvement Area Levy in the former town of Newcastle, now the City of Miramichi for the year 2023, be now read for the second time by title in both official languages.
Seconded again by Councillor Ross Robinson. On the question. All those in favor? Aye. Opposed? Motion carries.
Bylaw number 70-21, Business Improvement Area Levy. Oops, sorry, wrong one. Bylaw number 69-21, Business Improvement Area Levy in the former town of Newcastle, now the City of Miramichi for the year 2023.
Arrêté numéro 69-21, contribution de la zone d'amélioration des affaires dans l'ancienne ville de Newcastle, maintenant la ville de Miramichi, pour l'année 2023.
Thank you both. The third motion, Councillor Duplessis.
I move that bylaw number 69-21, Business Improvement Area Levy in the former town of Newcastle, now the City of Miramichi, for the 2023 be now read in its for the year 2023 be now read in its entirety in both official languages.
Thank you. Seconded by Councillor King. On the question. All those in favor? Aye. Opposed? Motion carries.
Bylaw number 69-21, Business Improvement Area Levy in the former town of Newcastle, now the City of Miramichi for the year 2023. Be it enacted by the Council of the City of Miramichi under the authority vested in it by the Business Improvement Areas Act, SNB 2014, Chapter 102, as follows. Number 1, a business improvement area levy in the amount of 20 cents per $100 of assessment for the year beginning January 1st, 2023 and ending December 31st, 2023 is hereby imposed on all business properties within the area described in bylaw number 58, being a bylaw to designate and establish a business improvement area within the town of Newcastle NB, now the City of Miramichi.
Arrêté numéro 69-21, contribution de la zone d'amélioration des affaires dans l'ancienne ville de Newcastle, maintenant la ville de Miramichi pour l'année 2023. Qu'ils sont édictés par le Conseil municipal de Miramichi en vertu du pouvoir que lui confère la loi sur les zones d'amélioration des affaires LRNB 2014, chapitre 102, comme suite. 1. Une contribution spéciale de zone d'amélioration des affaires augmentant le 20% dans l'air d'évaluation par l'année commençant le 1er janvier 2023 et se terminant le 31 décembre 2023 et par le présent imposé pour toutes les propriétés d'affaires dans l'intérieur de la zone décrite dans l'arrêté numéro 58, un arrêté désignant et établissant une zone d'amélioration des affaires dans l'intérieur de la ville de Newcastle, Nouveau-Brunswick, maintenant la ville de Miramichi.
Merci, thank you. And the fourth and final motion on this series, back to you, Councillor Duplessis.
Thank you, Your Worship. I move that bylaw number 69-21, Business Improvement Area Levy in the former town of Newcastle, now the City of Miramichi for the year 2023, be now read for the third time by title in both official languages and enacted.
Seconded by Councillor Ross Robinson. On the question. All those in favor? Aye. Opposed? Motion carries.
Bylaw number 69-21, Business Improvement Area Levy in the former town of Newcastle, now the city of Miramichi, for the year 2023.
Arrêté numéro 69-21, contribution de la zone d'amélioration des affaires dans l'ancienne ville de Newcastle, maintenant la ville de Miramichi, pour l'année 2023.
Thank you. So that concludes our series of motions regarding the downtown Newcastle Business Improvement Area Levy. We'll move now to the 4 motions regarding the Business Improvement Area Levy in the former town of Chatham. Deputy Mayor Quinn.
Thank you, Your Worship. Proposed motion number 1, I move that Council approves the 2023 budget submitted by the Historic Chatham Business District, identifying expenditures of $49,700.
And seconded by Councillor King. On the question, Councillor Ross Robinson.
Thank you, Worship. I will be voting no on this series of motions. It seems to me that the budget hasn't been updated in a couple of years. It's this exact same number. Everything looks exactly the same in the budget, and I struggle with that, and for that reason I will be voting against it.
Thank you, Councillor. Question from the chair. This, of course, came up a few weeks ago when we had first reading on these motions. I guess the question would be to the manager or anyone on staff. Did anyone on staff reach out to the Chatham BIA to ask them for an updated and proper budget for 2023?
Not that I know to supplement what they had submitted. They submitted a specific 2023 budget for first reading. But in my knowledge, we didn't reach out and ask them to modify that in any way.
Okay, thank you. So I share the councillor's frustration, but, voting, if the majority of us voted no tonight, we would disband their BIA, and since nobody on our side actually followed up to have that discussion with them, I would find that to be a little heavy-handed at this time. So I appreciate why you are doing it, but I personally will have to, but I would like to have our staff speak to them about this because, it's hard for them to submit something if they weren't asked to do that. Yeah, Councillor Ross Robinson.
Point of information on that, we did have a discussion with this group last year and the year prior about the importance of having an AGM and putting a budget together. So with all due respect to the staff, they have been advised. This group told them on a number of occasions to get it done. So that's all I have to say on that.
Fair point. Councillor Harris.
Yeah, thank you. Hey, obviously, this was discussed over a month ago, and, that was questions we had that night, and, we never did get any clarity back, and I'm not sure if there's any direction given, but, I have to concur with Councillor Ross Robinson, the budget has been the same for the last few years. I know we were told that night there was a new budget submitted. I think the manager at the time that presented sent their budget is not even with them anymore, is my understanding. I'm not sure if that's the case, but maybe our manager can bring us up to date on what transpired, because it has gone through council. We have talked about this, and you know what? I'm not going to lay blame on here or there because I'm not sure what the whole details are. But
the budget was submitted by, on behalf of the organization, by the former general manager. At that time, my understanding was he was considered a member of the board, so we accepted that document from him on behalf of the board.
Councillor Placey.
Just a point of clarification. It came up last time too when we discussed, and you, Councillor Ross Robinson just mentioned the AGM. They did have their AGM on a scheduled basis as they're mandated to, so just want to clarify that point.
Thank you. Seeing nothing further, I'll call the vote. All those in favor? Aye. Opposed? Aye. Motion carries. Second motion, Deputy Mayor Quinn.
Thank you, Your Worship. I move that bylaw number 70-21, Business Improvement Area Levy in the former town of Chatham, now the city of Miramichi, for the year 2023, be now read for the second time by title in both official languages.
And seconder, please, for the motion. Councillor King on the question. All those in favor? Aye. Opposed? Aye. Motion carries.
Bylaw number 70-21, Business Improvement Area Levy in the former town of Chatham, now the city of Miramichi, for the year 2023.
Arrêté numéro 70, trait d'union 21, contribution de la zone d'amélioration des affaires dans l'ancienne ville de Chatham, maintenant la ville de Miramichi, pour l'année de 2023.
Thank you. The third motion, Deputy Mayor Quinn.
Thank you. I move that bylaw number 70-21, Business Improvement Area Levy in the former town of Chatham, now the city of Miramichi, for the year 2023 be now read in its entirety in both official languages.
And seconder, Councillor King, on the question. All those in favor? Aye. Opposed? Motion carries.
Bylaw number 70-21, Business Improvement Area Levy in the former town of Chatham, now the city of Miramichi for the year 2023. Be it enacted by the Council of the City of Miramichi under authority vested in it by the Business Improvement Areas Act, SMB 2014, Chapter 102, as follows. Number 1, a business improvement area levy in the amount of 20 cents per $100 of assessment for the year beginning January 1st, 2023 and ending December 31st, 2023 is hereby imposed on all business properties within the area described in bylaw number 97, being a bylaw to designate and establish a business improvement area within the town of Chatham, now the city of Miramichi.
Arrêté numéro 70, trait d'union 21, contribution de la zone d'amélioration des affaires dans l'ancienne ville de Chatham, maintenant la ville de Miramichi pour l'année 2023, qu'il soit édicté par le conseil municipal de Miramichi en vertu du pouvoir qui lui confère la loi sur les zones d'amélioration des affaires, LRNB 2014, chapitre 102, comme suit. Numéro 1. La contribution spéciale de zone d'amélioration des affaires au montant de 20 cents par $100 d'évaluation pour l'année commençant le 1er janvier 2023 et se terminant le 31 décembre 2023 et par la présente est posée sur toutes les propriétés d'affaires à l'intérieur de la zone décrite dans l'arrêté numéro 97, un arrêté désignant et établissant une zone d'amélioration des affaires à l'intérieur de la ville de Chatham, maintenant la ville de Miramichi.
Thank you. And the fourth motion, Deputy Mayor Quinn.
Thank you, Your Worship. I move that bylaw number 70-21, excuse me, Business Improvement Area Levy in the former town of Chatham, now the city of Miramichi, for the year 2023 be now read for the third time by title in both official languages and enacted.
Thank you. And seconded again by Councillor King on the question. All those in favor? Aye. Opposed? Motion carries.
Bylaw number 70-21, Business Improvement Area Levy in the former town of Chatham, now the city of Miramichi for the year 2023.
Arrêté numéro 70, trait d'union 21, contribution de la zone d'amélioration des affaires dans l'ancienne ville de Chatham, maintenant la ville de Miramichi pour l'année 2023.
Thank you both again. So a motion to adjourn, please. Councillor Harris, seconded by the Deputy Mayor on the question. All those in favor? Aye. Opposed? Motion carries and the meeting is adjourned. And with that, it is 6:16 and I will call this Council in Committee meeting for November 8th, 2022 to order. Ask the clerk to once again record our attendance and ask for a motion to approve the agenda, please. Councillor Summers, seconded by Councillor King on the question. All those in favor? Aye. Opposed? Motion carries. Are there any conflicts of interest this evening? Seeing none, we have just one item on the agenda this evening, but it's a big one. It's, of course, the review, our first look at the proposed operating budgets for 2023, both for the general operating and the utility operating. Also, this will include effectively tax rate information as well. So similar to when we did the capital budget a couple of weeks ago, What we're going to do is, first I'll turn it over to Director Gorman, who will introduce the budget and give some highlights, and then we'll work through. Everyone on council got this list of all of the things that would be changing in the budget. So we will go through, as we did before, department by department, so that council can ask any questions or make any points that they'd like to make. And then at the end, again, we will open the floor for any items that aren't addressed here. So whether those are new things that you were hoping to see, or maybe line items that exist that aren't proposed to change that you wanted to ask about as well. So that's how we'll work our way through. We'll do all of the general, and then we'll conclude with the utility. Director Gorman, I'll turn it over to you.
Okay, thank you, Mayor Lorden. So this evening, as the mayor mentioned, it's more or less a review of the increases and decreases to the operational budget using the 2022 budget as a starting point. It's an opportunity for council to ask questions or gain clarity on any of the budget lines, and a more formal presentation with final numbers will be given next Tuesday night, the 15th. And just want to point out a couple items. The first section in your package provides information on the warrant, and information just came to my attention late last week from the manager that we are only allowed to increase the new areas by a maximum of 5 cents over their former tax rate. So that's on the spreadsheet. You can see the change. And in line with the province's suggestion and encouragement to take advantage of the taxation room that they have left, and in order to support the expenditure side of the 2023 budget, I've used the 1.6 option as a multiplier for the non-residential and heavy industrial properties. And I've also assumed a status quo on the tax rate. The summary page gives a high-level breakdown of the changes to the general operating revenue and expenses. On the expense side, I provided a total increase for salary, capital from revenue, and other non-salary related changes. And on the utility budget, I just wanted to point out that we will be increasing the water sewer rates by 3.5% to offset cost of living increases on the expenditure side. We managed to keep the rates at the same level for 5 years, but unfortunately we cannot hold off unnecessary and needed increase on the revenue side any longer. So I'll turn everything back over to Mayor Lorden to open the floor up for questions, and we'll go through it one department at a time.
Great. Okay. Thank you. Thank you, again, Director Gorman. So we'll start at the top here. And so it's on the general operating increase-decrease spreadsheet. And we'll start with engineering at the top of the list. So are there any questions or comments from members of council regarding any of the items under the engineering department? I'll start, I guess. Director Rao, if you could just give a quick sort of summary of what is the software that's being increased, and then maybe just speak to what we are getting for the 60,000 under the, or I guess it would be proposed at 50,000 for next year for the asset management. So what does that cover? Because now that we have the in-house person, I know it's not salary, but what is that accounting for? Thanks.
Yeah, thanks, Your Worship. So the software is just the tools we use, mostly the cost of increase in our ArcGIS or Esri software. We use it every day, and a host of departments use it. I think there's about 20 people that have accounts with it, so it's just increase the cost for that. And then the asset management, that would decrease a little bit in that cost. You're correct. Our consultant is wrapping up. However, we use that for we're going to use that for building condition assessments and some other condition assessments of some underground pipes and stuff. We've had a I guess a line in there the last bunch of budgets of condition assessments that we used to be called. So it's essentially, you know, getting some consultants with specialized equipment to review our facilities or infrastructure. So we did change the title of it to asset management last year. So it's not really our consultant. It's more of you know, check our assets, I guess, and condition assessments. And the consultant designs, we had quite a bit of money last year for a bunch of studies that we're just wrapping up. And then next year we're proposing to do get into the shoreline protection design. We did get a funding partner for a 10-year funding stream there. So next year, we're going to kind of take a pause on the work, do good design, all the work that's required over the next 10 years. So that's where that money comes from. So a few items there, and overall, quite a bit of a decrease, I guess, for next year. So,
Great.
thank you.
Thank you. I guess that spoke to everything other than the gas and insurance. So I don't imagine there'll be any more questions, Director. But of course, people can come back if they do have those, or if they want to raise any other items that would fall under your department. So the next department that you can see on the spreadsheet is the fire department. So open the floor to any questions or comments regarding items under the fire department proposed adjustments. Councillor Duplessis.
Thank you, Worship. Through your chair to Chief. The smoke detectors, we see a huge increase there. I know last year we talked about kind of doing a widespread distribution of smoke detectors. Is that what we're seeing for this year? And kind of recap of what the intention is for distribution and kind of that budget line of $18,500 for promotional supplies, increased level service smoke detectors for community.
Through the chair to Councillor Duplessis, yes, that's exactly what's going to happen. We're looking at a campaign next year, whether we start in Douglastown, and we'll see how it goes door to door. Basically, we want a smoke detector in every home in the city eventually, but we'll start at, I'll say either Douglastown or downtown Chatham, whatever we decide we're going to start with, and we're going to take it from there.
Thank you. Councillor Arsenault.
Just for my own information, Chief, how many households would we have right now without smoke detectors? An estimate, obviously.
Through the chair to Councillor Arsenault, I'm not too sure about how many that we don't have, but in the last 2 years, I guess we've been through our campaigns, smoke detectors, we've been issuing them as we find out that there's none there. So this is going to be a project where we're going to have the people basically, the guys on shift go door to door and say, do you have one? And if you have one, if you don't have one, we'd like to supply you with one.
Thanks for that. I look forward to that. Thank you.
Question from the chair to the chief or whomever. I know that some of the additional increases as it relates to wages and salaries are in the paper that was just on our desk tonight that we hadn't previously received. One of the items that I am looking most forward to in this budget is, following through on some of the work we did earlier in the year, meeting with the volunteer firefighters, and one of those initiatives was starting to pay them for the calls inside the city as well as the calls outside the city where they are currently paid. So I do see on this paper that there's a $10,000 increase to firefighter volunteer wages, but I would just like maybe for you to speak to that to confirm, is that now going to allow us to start paying them for those calls? Because it seems like not very much money to start paying people in the right way. And if it's needed, I'll make a motion to add more.
The plan would be, as we indicated, I think at the Protective Services Standing Committee, to increase the pay to $17.50 an hour for volunteers. Some other changes related to that is currently they only get paid when they go out of town. That would change. It would be for all calls that they're requested to answer. The first 43 hours they respond in 2-hour increments is considered part of their honorarium. The amount of time that we intend to call them in, or the amount of matters we think will go down, but the cost obviously will go up. So the reason it only shows a $10,000 increase in the budget is the budget for the volunteers is combined with what pays them for training. So the training budget was, I think, at $50,000 and had been underutilized. So we're recommending that the combined training pay budget go up to $60,000. So it's actually an expectation of more than $10,000. It is using up part of the unused training money and bringing that up to 50 plus adding 10 more to that. So yes, that should be at 60 now, and that factors in based on other years' call-ins, what we expect to pay.
Okay, and where was that change in training reflected? I didn't see it here. It's down further.
It's administration, is it 7117 or 711? Administration,
It's under a different department from fire department, is that what you're saying? Oh, Director Gorman, sorry, please.
It's actually not in the like what the listing you have is non-salary. It's actually under the salary, so you don't have that type of detail. But the training for volunteers was previously 25,000, and we moved it up to 30. And the salaries for volunteers was 45, and we moved it up to 50. But combined, as the manager spoke to, that it's to cover it, make sure it's covered. I guess what I'm saying is the budget was there, just was underutilized.
Okay, the line under, okay, thank you.
So we only needed to bring it up by 10 to make sure there's enough.
To achieve the goal that you just laid out. Okay, thank you. That's helpful. The other one, I guess, that I had submitted in my own budget request as well, and I see is on the expenditures under the wage and benefit increases, was having a plan for bridge mitigation. As we know, we're anticipating heading into the first of 3 summer seasons with a full bridge closure, and there had been different discussions over the last couple of years about what would need to happen, and one of those was potentially extra firefighters on duty in the Douglastown area. And I see you've got a new line item there of $200,000 for that. Could you speak to what that will entail, Mr. Manager? Or yeah.
So what we looked at was where we're going to house our fire truck, and we end up with an agreement with NVCC to put the truck over there in their community center over there. And we looked at manpower and how much it would cost during basically a 12-hour shift, and where we're going to stand with the fire service with the manpower over there. And the option we're looking at mainly would be maybe our fire prevention officers going there. We're not finished with that yet, but there's a plan in the process for it, and we had to put down what it would cost, and that's what we figured it out to be.
So I guess, just Chief, to be clear, like, so you don't have a sense yet, or like how much extra manning is $200,000 providing?
I believe when I did the numbers, it was about 177 or something like that. That actual numbers, but there's some overtime included in there too.
177 what? Sorry.
177,000.
Oh, right. But I guess, is this to sort of to have how many over there, I guess? I'm just wondering what the scope of that.
2 on shift.
2 firefighters on shift
Yep.
in Douglastown.
Yep.
Okay.
And that would be
For 24 hours.
12.
12. Okay.
That would be a combination of straight time for some of the fire prevention officers, or that may work some of those hours, and overtime for our regular professionals to man it. And I'll speak to the hours. It was believed, and we had the discussion at staff, that there will be probably during the day real issues getting from Newcastle to the Douglastown area. We don't expect those to be the same at 3 in the morning as they are at 3 in the afternoon. Right. That is why the planning for 12 hours of manning that station.
Thank you. Thank you. And just to observe, because we're on this immediate topic, there is nothing similar for the police department. So I guess it was determined by staff that no extra manning is required in the policing area to ensure safe and timely response with a bridge closure.
That, so you'll see in the budget, and where I had spoken to council about the 2-person traffic unit. So what we would be looking at doing is starting them on a different shift, so that we have a car in the Douglastown area at shift change. They would come in an hour earlier than the regular shift, and there would be no cost as far as a building or facility, because of the fact that we do have our detention center on the courthouse. So that would maintain as far as the service level of service on this side of the river.
Okay. Thank you. Councillor Harris?
You know, this is a issue that's going to be by itself, I think, in the new year, probably for fire service in Douglastown. I mean, you know, how many volunteers do we have close to the NBCC that can respond with the 2 full times that are on the 12-hour shift? You know, it's going to be yeah, because we hear it all the time, right? That we need manpower, and obviously you've said that too, that we need manpower at certain, if you have an accident or 2 accidents or anything, how many are going to respond? So we're going to have to know how many volunteers are in all these areas. And if our 2 fire suppression, or two fire prevention guys are doing that, then we're not doing fire prevention during the day, I take it, and that has never come through. I've never heard tell of it yet. So it's just, I know it's going to be a bigger thing to come up, but I just want to make sure we have enough money there, Chief, that to cover this. And also, I do believe that, you know, the bridge is being shut down not by the city of Miramichi, but is being shut down by the province of New Brunswick. And you know, I think there's conversations that have to be had maybe there too, because this could cost. It's a $200,000 line item, but this is 3 years, and the second year it could be 300, and the 4th year it could be 400. We're not sure. So a takeaway for tonight would be I'd like to have after budget, a detailed plan come back, I guess, to find out. Yeah. No, take your phone call. I'm good.
Yeah, and I think that's a good note, Councillor. I would agree as well that if this is what we're looking at preliminarily for 1 year, I would look forward to having a conversation with the provincial government about cost sharing on some of these expenses. You know, they like to position us as partners, and we have been in preparing for the closure from an infrastructure perspective and a communications perspective. So, you know, I think once we get that detailed briefing, I would look forward to then starting a conversation about cost sharing in some of those areas. So thank you. So I guess back to the fire department on the budget. Yep, Deputy Mayor Quinn.
Thank you, Your Worship. I just, Chief Lloyd, I'm going to follow Councillor Harris's lead here. I just, going back to your scenario of fire prevention officers at the MBCC building in Douglastown, if our 2 officers are there, and I don't want to say they're not doing their job because that'd be the wrong term, but they're not doing their fire prevention job while they're manning the shop, so to speak, or I'm lost on that one.
To Councillor Quinn, to the Chair of Councillor Quinn, we can still have them fire prevention. They can still be working in that general area with the vehicle. It's not that they're going to be at a service or anything like that. There's still fire prevention to be done.
Thank you. Any other questions on the fire section that's in front of us? And again, we can always come back if you think of something later. I'm going to move then to general government. So are there any questions or comments under the general government area? Councillor Ross Robinson.
Thank you, Your Worship. I just have one on the Youth Action Committee. We discussed that last year, and at that time the discussion was that it wasn't going to cost anything, and I see that there's $10,000 in the budget. I'm just curious as to what that money is for.
Yeah, we, I believe at the time, and it was reflected in the conversation we had in the management report, that it was not going to cost anything for the remainder of 2022. But there was always an expectation, or my understanding was that we may have to, incorporate something for moving forward. So this proposed funding would be basically for 2 things. Primarily, about 3/4 of it would be for the cost of hosting their annual event. So the model of the Youth Action Committee is that the youth committee organizes a Miramichi Day of Action, which is kind of like a local We Day type thing, where youth can bring forward their, I know I hate to use that analogy, but where they get to talk about issues that are important to them, talk about the vision of the future, and then they bring from that day a report to council. So $7,500 is basically the cost of the event, and then the $2,500 are the expenses for the committee throughout the year when they have like planning meetings and those types of things. So that I did submit that to the manager in detail. So that's what it was costed out by Holly, or I guess I don't want to use her first name, but the community development coordinator who's in charge of the file, and that's based on last year they did this, but it was not under the Mayor's Youth Committee umbrella. It was through the MRMA, so that was the actual cost, and so that we're just proposed that it be carried here.
Just to that, it was through MRMA funded by us. So we had given MRMA a service contract to do population retention and growth. It was like $30,000, and part of that was that budget. So that budget historically has come from us, just with a different title and a different bank account.
Sorry, so, yeah, good, okay. Councillor Summers.
Thank you, Your Worship. Just, I'm not sure who I'm directing this question to, but I see 433% increase in cyber security insurance, and I just would like an explanation on that one.
That is what we've been told to expect for basically policy to cover us on, modern, real threats to our system. So we've got told to estimate $80,000, I believe, for the cost of that.
Yep, still to you, Councillor.
Are we essentially playing catch up? Like, were we that far behind? We've gone from 15 to 80.
We are on the insurance.
Seems substantial.
No, we are on the insurance because the insurance sort of changed. Since it's become more current, that I guess the terms of the policies are different, so that's what it costs to get you. I think it's a little over $1 million in liability coverage. It was a balancing of what would be the cost and what would be the damage after talking to IT. So we are playing catch up.
And can we expect that to be a new ongoing line item, always at 80,000?
Never at always at 80,000. Insurance, as you see,
Yeah.
there's a 21% increase estimated this year on top of underestimated 10% last year. It is a real struggle in the insurance industry to get.
So meaning it's
fixed
not
costs.
like a 1 year thing that's going to go back to 15?
No,
Yeah,
no, it'll
okay.
be at that if you want insurance coverage.
Yeah, okay. Councillor Summers, any good there? Okay. Just from the chair, I don't know who this would go to. There's 30,000 for comms for website and 35 for graphic design comms. Just, I'd like a little detail of what those items will be doing, because we still haven't seen the communications plan come forward yet.
The communications currently plugs into my department, so it was created last year. So the graphic design budget is essentially moving it from ECDev to under the control of communications.
So, but what are they graphic designing?
In terms of just the communications, because I think what Gail can answer what she's going to be using it for. But what happened is we've identified primarily communications, rec, and ECDev as the departments that are requiring, graphic design. And so that is the part for Gail, for, I think, your part of it. Maybe you can explain what kind of communications stuff requires the graphic design part.
It's to create any of the images, graphics that we need for our social media posts. On the website, it's updating the website. It's to update any of the, or to create graphics for the social media and the website, create, help doing the posting on the website, just trying to promote get some great images to promote to promote the city and get the message out.
So that's I understand social, like graphics for social media for all things, because it's centralized now. But on the website, I guess, Ms. Harding, there were some recommended updates and improvements that we had discussed. Is that what that is for, or just for ongoing maintenance?
This would be hopefully for the creation of a new website.
Okay, so I do look forward to that communications plan coming forward and getting those details then. Something I thought we would have had by now, and you know, this council wanted to put a premium on improving communications, and that's of course why we have you. So hopefully we can work offline to set a date for when we're going to get that presentation. Oh, thank you. Okay, Councillor DePlacy.
Just on that, I think we don't see the increase or decrease because of the new department, or not department, but position or budget lines. But it was under economic development. I think it was 20 grand previously for graphic design coming through economic development. Can I get some clarity on that? And then, that's a lot of money for graphic design in today's day and age. And I'm wondering if that will be, is that a sole contract? Is that going to be tendered? We're getting close to bringing that in-house. And just wondering, I just had some questions on what $30,000 of graphic design looks like. And I would think that our needs are probably a little bit more around photography and video assets more than image or graphics and logos. But I would leave those questions to whoever can answer them, I guess.
I can deal with some of them. We have had discussions.
Oh, sorry. I thought you were. I thought it was that Councillor Johnson had a question. No, Director McTavish would like to speak to it. Sorry. Oh, sorry. Okay, sorry, Mr. Manager. I didn't mean to interrupt.
Okay. We have had discussions about the best way to deal with our increased need for graphic design. Our current the company that provides it is a sole proprietor, and we are having some issues with, timeliness. We are actually also having issues with different departments asking this individual separately for work, and one department being told their work's not getting done because the other department's work is getting done. So we are actively exploring the idea of getting separate individuals or companies that would handle the needs of the department separately instead of putting everything in one basket. And if we do, we have to make sure that we have a graphic design firm with multiple people into it for not only the ideas, but the ability to handle the volume of work that the city now has in this area.
So I know, because we've seen graphic design kind of be executed through economic development, but not, say, recreation and wellness. So are we seeing that kind of sharing the wealth of that resource now in that budget line, or kind of what are our service level expectations with 30 grand?
I see Director McTavish has turned his camera on. Director McTavish, did you want to speak to this? No.
I think it's on our end.
No, hang on, Jeff.
Is there a volume button back there? Does anybody know how to use it enough to?
Yeah, Councillor Johnson, can you say something just so we can check your level? No. Oh, you're on mute, Councillor Johnson. If you can unmute yourself. Okay, go ahead. No. Yeah. So it is. It's what? It's out here.
Yeah.
We could possibly move that the microphone maybe.
We just need to turn.
It's the speaker part.
So what has changed?
I'm not sure.
Is there a volume on the television?
Is there a budget item in here for this?
There should be a volume button on that.
A TV volume?
Or
No. Oh, there you go.
Director McTavish, can you try again?
There's no way to get the cursor on the volume button. Okay.
Usually we hear them through there, but oh,
Go ahead, try again.
Jeff, Director McTavish, can you try again? No.
he's not called through on that there.
I remember my question.
It's just,
What about the hand mic, if somebody held it down by the mic and the speaker of the thing? Or not? I can go do that. If it'll work.
Director McTavish, can you try again now? Somehow worse, yeah. I mean, this is unfortunate since it usually works and we do pay. Council has made an expectation that this would work, provided all the resources required for that. I don't know what to do. I don't know what to do.
They could phone in.
They could phone in, yeah.
If they wish to address, it's the only option.
Do you know what the number is?
Jeff knows, probably knows.
They can probably call into this phone, but yeah, Jeff, can you phone into the call-in number phone that we, yeah. Thank you.
It should ring here in a second. Is he calling in?
He said he was going to, yeah.
Rhonda, if you can stay there to accept.
Oh, just,
Tara can accept it.
Rhonda, he's going to call in there. I think we might have to. I mean, he seemed to indicate that he did. Maybe we can just, well, we will certainly need him because he's got an entire department too. Yeah, we'll get him on the line, but we'll keep going. But he's got a department that we'll have questions about as well, so we'll have to make sure that he is available. So yes, we'll come back to that. Councillor Arsenault.
Yeah, I just wanted to speak to the comms plan for a second. So at the last Finance, Planning and Administration Standing Committee, I had asked Mr. Noel to have ready for the next Standing Committee in December the comms plan for 2023 from Ms. Harding to present to us so that we'll be able to know where we're going at that point.
Thank you for that update. And I guess sort of in the same vein, and I guess this might be to Ms. Harding or the manager, but we have 18,000 again under general government for comms for app. Of course, last year we allocated funding for an app related to the public work services and the public, and we were recently told that really no work had happened on that. So can we speak to what this $18,000 is for?
It is for that app that had been recently had money allocated to Public Works, and it's based on current costing that the communications officer got for that app, that outward-facing app.
Okay, so this is for the full development and implementation of the app?
Yes.
Okay, thank you. That's great news. I also, under civic relations, this is all still under general government, for French Fort Cove Eco Center, I guess there's it was 50,000 and now it will be nothing, and that's the acquisition of the Eco Center?
No. Yeah.
Under 1950?
Yeah.
So, yeah, Director Gorman.
That was the grant that city would give to the Eco Center French Fork Cove to help with their operations. And since since it looks as though the city will be taking ownership of the Eco Center in 2023, I've collapsed that grant and created an operating budget in its stead.
Okay. So it's just a transference effectively to different line. Thanks. And then just on the Airport Commission, I don't have a question tonight, but I would like to see their budget. Since we did say we didn't want to bring the groups in, but giving them $70,000 is a substantial amount, so I'd just like to have to see their budget.
It is part of the package. I think it's one of the last couple of sheets on the.
Over here. Oh, okay, that wasn't emailed out, so thank you. Okay, and then last one for me in this section. Oh no, that's HR. Never mind. I'm good. Councillor Harris.
Just a quick question on a couple. I just see, and it's going to be everyone. We're estimating 6% rate increase for electricity from MB Power. I do believe it's at 8.9 that they've said that they're going to put it up to. I just know it's going to affect our numbers at the bottom of the day. So if we update it over the next week, and also like heating costs for oil and stuff. I don't know the 25% if that was done before they upped it by 33% on Saturday, the 63% increase or not. And I just, because we're going to get a tax rate and we're going to get it down to dollars and cents here sometime by next Tuesday, I presume. So it's good to know what we have budgeted in them. I don't think your increases are enough, I guess, is what I'm saying, Director Gorman. I really don't. And I think we have to increase them a little bit more by the end of the day because, you know what? We're not going to be no different than anybody else. Everyone's going to think about electricity and heat and oil this winter. And we have to do the same as a city for our taxpayers. So.
Just one question, I guess I do have one now on the airport budget now that I see it. So they're asking us for $70,000 and projecting an almost $40,000 surplus. I'm just curious, do we have a policy around, like with the transit, for example, if they have a surplus, it's supposed to come back to the city. Is there a similar policy with the airport?
And there's no policy on either one of them, I guess.
Okay. I think we'll pursue that another time then. I'm just not sure why they'd ask for 70 if they're running $40,000 surplus.
Are they asking for 70? It was 70 in 2022, and it's required is 70 in brackets, so that, and then it's 0. It looks like they're not asking for any.
Oh.
No, they're 70.
They are asking for 70, and might be what you're seeing in the spreadsheet is their grant originally was set up under the capital area of the finances, and I've moved it up to civic relations, so where it is a grant. But I can reduce their grant if by the amount of their surplus too. It doesn't have to be 70. We can make that change.
Well, I would just like to have like an explanation, or is there a strategy? Like, you know, I'm not necessarily saying to do that, but certainly would like to have a conversation around their thinking and why it is that way. Okay. So I'll ask for that to be added to a standing committee item for sure. And Councillor Harris, did you want to speak to that?
Yeah, I mean, at the end of the day, with their budget, I mean, they've asked is for the same amount they had last year. A surplus is not a dirty word, really. A surplus is pretty, it's pretty good for a business to have, especially to support our airport here in the city of Miramichi. I mean, we want to be known as a city, and we do have an airport, and we have a group of people that are doing a pretty good job by looking at it. We could be sitting here tonight looking at a deficit and looking to make up that deficit to keep that airport open. So, and we just passed 2 budgets, and one that we're not even sure they even met on, and then we heard that they did, and here we are worrying about a surplus. I just find sometimes we pick on things, I'm not sure why we pick on them, and to a group that's, you know, they're making money, they're doing a good service for the city, they're providing a service to the city. I mean, the health care, they're playing some here, you know, they're playing them there 80 or 90 times a year to pick people up from the hospital to go for if they have a heart attack or anything. So, I mean, you know, sometimes when we pick on things, let's pick on things for the right reasons, not for a dollar figure. And for this one, I would say, you know, $70,000 is pretty cheap to support an airport. Bathurst is upwards of $1 million for their airport. So, I mean, we should be looking at that and look at ourselves.
Yeah, just to speak to that, I'm certainly not picking on anyone, but it's our job to go through the budget, and you know, we usually do have an opportunity to speak with them, so we haven't this year. And a couple of years ago now, you know, we said that we would help them to work because their budget's significant. It's $750,000 to work towards a model where they would have an operating budget and a capital budget plan that was separate. And certainly if they're building up surpluses, that is a good thing, Councillor Harris, as well. But just to understand what is their intention around the surpluses, and have they made progress on their separating capital from operating. It's just a conversation that was started at this table a couple of years ago that we haven't had an update on. So back to you.
No, and I agree with that, but I mean, we've made the decision not to bring them in to speak to them. And now we're at a budget process tonight doing operating where we want questions asked. So maybe next year in September, we should have them all back in if we're going to have questions, because they're the ones that can answer the questions.
Absolutely.
Because if now we have to wait, and maybe they're not available for a couple of weeks to come back to talk to us. And you know what I mean? That's all I'm saying is we're already in a process in November here for a budget that is delayed, and we are delaying it. And but we made these decisions. We have to stick with them.
Well, we didn't make the decisions. I would have started budget sooner than we did.
Not to speak to them.
That's right. Yes, but we we said we would ask for the budgets, and we just got it tonight on the table. So it's the first time I'm seeing it. If I had have had it earlier, I would have asked the question earlier. We only got this tonight.
No, I know, but
yeah. Okay, so anyway, that's to follow up at another meeting. Is there anything else under the general government area that anyone would like to ask about? If not, we'll move into HR. So is there any questions around the HR line items? A relatively small one.
Can we just back up? I guess the debt servicing, we did talk about interest the other night. And, we did ask to see what rates, I think, your worship, you had asked what rates we had 10 years ago compared to what rates we're going with this year. And Nancy, I see, we're increasing about $90,000 in interest. We're almost at $500,000 in interest, I guess we're paying per year, if that's correct, if I'm reading this right. If you can tell us a little bit about this.
The interest increases, it's not really based on the actual interest rates, as per the bank that's have been increasing. It's all set out when we do enter into long-term debt arrangements. It's stipulated at that time what the interest rate will be for each year of the term. So, for instance, the 2022 borrowing that we did this summer, the interest rate ranges for 2023 will be paying 3.5%, and by 2032 it'll be up to 4.083. But we won't know what interest rates we'll be paying on the debt next year. It'll depend on the market, et cetera. So.
Well, I guess we know that the market is going up on interest rates. That's pretty confident. Okay, thanks, Nancy.
But, sorry, but that's, like, the amount that's set up there is the actual amount of principal and interest payments that we're making on existing debt next year. That's not fluctuating with the market.
Okay, so under HR, I guess I would just to the manager or director, director's not here. I see we still have the budget line item for departmental studies, which is great because we're just about through all of the departments. It decreases a little for next year. What departments are we lined up to be doing next year, Mr. Manager?
HR and finance.
Great, thank you. I think that will just about complete the circuit too, since when we started a few years ago. So we'll move on to libraries as well. There's a pretty big section there for libraries, if anyone has any questions under that section. And seeing none, we can continue through to policing. If there are any questions or comments still on libraries or policing. Councillor Lacey.
On the policing, and then not so much policing, but emergency preparedness, I'm thinking ice storm, all of that kind of stuff. Do we have a budget line set up to do that, or what does that body of work look like? I'm just I was asked today about kind of where we're at with emergency preparedness, so I bring that question to this conversation.
Is that noise?
That's what Michael Clark calling me over and over.
Sorry, I thought it was Jeff trying to call him. Sorry.
That's all right. That's awesome.
Sorry.
Put them on the screen.
No.
So through the chair to Councillor Duplessis, you'll see in there one budget line for EMO was moved from the clerk's office to fall under police. So that looks after, there's a software cost that we have. Now, we do have the EMO center is located in the Maritech building, and we partnered with the province, and the final work is being completed on that now, and we are going to have an open house for the mayor and council to have a look at that. It is a very nice room. It's state-of-the-art, the way it's set up, and it will give you an appreciation for what is in place in the event that we do have an emergency. So I'm not sure if that answers your question, or...
100%, yeah, that's great.
So that is coming. We will be doing it in partnership with Public Safety and EMO when we do have the open house.
That's great news. Happy to hear that.
Thank you. Any other questions or comments on the policing section of the changes? If not, we can move into recreation as well. There are several pages under recreation, so I imagine there'll be some questions and comments around these parts. Oh, Councillor Arsenault.
Thank you. So one of the requests I had made was because we had gotten started late on our mental health awareness and training strategy for this year, that the part of the budget that we had not spent on the research piece would be carried over into next year to be able to do all of the things that were planned, and I see it's been totally taken out of the budget. So I'm just wondering about that.
Through the chair to Councillor Arsenault, the HR department was heading that up, so I'm not sure where that may be into the budget. Might have been an oversight where it was on a community balance and recreation in with a line mixed into there, but it's something I think that maybe we can check into to see what was remaining. I'm not sure as part of the recreation department, because I know HR was heading that aspect, so I'm not sure where we are.
It says under 7110 consultant miscellaneous, outdoor rec plan, mental health awareness, training not used. So I guess the insinuation is that the mental health funding is gone. Yeah.
Well, the problem with the mental health training and budgeting is we didn't have detail to budget. And the idea was, once we formulate what you want to do in 2023, we'd have no problem coming back and asking for the funding. But moving into next year and just saying, I think the idea that we'd put money without the plan was a bit problematic. The idea was, let's develop the plan and then we'd request the funding. So I understood everything this year was covered, everything that we had planned to do in terms of the funding, because a lot of it came gratis, came free. So I think that's what it was. It wasn't a denial that we're not going to do anything. It was, let's figure out what we're going to do beforehand.
Sorry, Councillor. Yeah, still to you, Councillor Arsenault. On the
Thanks. Yeah. So I had requested 15,000 last year in an effort to get the budget item listed, because we had to have an amount. There's approximately 4,000 that we used for the research assistant and the study, which is now moving ahead, and then the first training session is happening in November, so which left us approximately, give or take, about 11,000 to carry over. But it's just, I guess I'm concerned that we're now going to take it out of the budget, and when we come next year to say, well, I want to do this or that in relation to all that, I'm going to be told it should have been budgeted originally.
It's up to council, like you say. If you want to put the money there and then determine the idea, that's fine. What we've been trying to do is let the idea determine the budget. So that's why it's not that we're not going to do anything, it's we'd have to know what the idea is to budget for it. It's not an attempt to stop any mental health initiatives through this.
So, Councillor, I guess to you and to everyone, again, tonight this is a first look, so we're able to make motions to add things in if we would like to do that, and so that can be entertained now or later on this evening, and in particular, if there were initiatives that you saw on the horizon in 2023. I think that's one of the disconnects of the way we did it this year was we were asked to submit lists, but then there was no follow-up with us. So you probably maybe had something in mind, but didn't come through in the list, and there was no follow-up on either side. So yeah. Okay, and so Councillor Duplessis, sorry.
I guess just on that kind of process, so a budget gets developed, ideas get developed attached to a budget line, and then work plans get developed from the budget. The balance that gets struck there or the imbalance that gets struck is it falls on council to dip into operational stuff, to say here's an idea in April on this idea, and this is what we should do now, and it gets gray. Okay. And I understand from an accounting perspective, but there needs to be some level of assurance at this point of the year to say that's going to be in someone's work plan, and the budget will be determined later. Do you know what I'm saying? Yeah. Because we do get pulled into this operational departmental work to say, hey, it's April, good time to go do a mental health study or whatever the issue is. But so some kind of process, just something to think about, something that's been on my mind.
Yeah. Okay. So come back to that. Continuing in recreation. If there are any questions or comments, yeah, Councillor Summers.
Thank you, Your Worship. I'll bite on the $55,000, or sorry, $60,000, my apologies, on the site design for the Harkins property and one other design to be determined. I guess I'm just looking for clarification on that because to my knowledge, we don't own the Harkins property. So I guess I'm wondering what we're potentially site designing.
The recommendation was there was 5 sites that we understand council will be looking to either develop or redevelop, and that would be Harkins, Ian Bailey, Waterford Green, Ritchie Wharf, and Anderson Mill. And as you know, the outdoor rec report got sent to standing to set some priorities, what order you wanted to do them. Instead of losing a year, the Asset Management Committee of Staff recommended that Harkins be the first one to be done, like the development of that plan for the outdoor rec part. So, yeah, and as far as the ownership, once again, as of last week, the lawyer who represents the party that's going to sell it to us still hasn't got the title in their name. But all indications are that that property will be transferred to the city for the price that was offered to the previous owner as soon as they have title. That's what I have the assurance from their lawyer anyway.
Thanks. I actually speaking to that line item now because I was going to bring this up later, but we're on it, so I don't want to have to come back to it. I had submitted in my budget requests that to see funding to do not a detailed design like Harkins, but high-level updating of sketches and costing for a few of those properties that the manager said have been on our radar. They're in our plans. We've recently purchased them, specifically Anderson Mill, Ian Bailey, and then Ritchie Wharf and Waterford Green that we've talked about having updated plans there. Some things have changed since they were first designed in 2019. Got an updated cost on those that for one of those, like we did for Elm Park or Howard Street before we actioned them, we had the image with the rough detailed cost. It's about $10K for each one of those. And so I'll, in 2023, look to bring these conversations to council to have updated high-level images and costs for those parks, because I said this the other day at standing committee, but personally as a member of council, I didn't buy Anderson Mill so that I didn't vote to do that so that we owned the brownfield on the waterfront downtown forever. And they're in our plans. So with $40K of this line item being allocated for Harkins, it would leave enough to do 2 of those, but I'm hoping that we'll be able to have conversations about all 4 so that then we have costing to consider during next year's capital budget. So I'm in an awkward position because I bring them forward. I can't make motions, but I'd like to see 20K added to that line item. And, I guess when we maybe come back to that part of the night, I'll bring it up again and see if there's someone who would do that. But this kind of gets, building on what Councillor DePlacy said, just that awkward in between, there are intentions, not detailed intentions, but there are intentions. So we, sometimes we put them in and sometimes we don't, and it always seems a bit ambiguous all the way around. But I'll be looking for 20K to get added there at some point.
Just a point of clarification on that, Your Worship. I was just making notes as I listened to you speak. That's Ian Bailey, Waterford, Green, Harkins, and the Anderson?
Yeah. No, not Ian Bailey, Anderson Mill, Ritchie Wharf, and Waterford Green.
Yeah, excuse me.
Yeah.
I knew I had one on there. And are we coming back to that, or?
Yeah. Yeah. We could, and I know the manager said that there were discussions and they did put some of that in, but if you'd like to put a motion on the floor now, Councillor, Deputy Mayor, sorry.
What do you mean by that, Adam, that there was discussion? I just want to know what you mean.
What happened was, it was an original discussion, I think the mayor's capital request was to do 5 detailed plans. And at the capital meeting, it was, we couldn't recommend doing it, but then there was discussions on, do we do what I call concept drawings, and some discussion about the merit to them in terms of, do you set those expectations, and council, as long as it's made clear to the public this is a concept that could change, there could be some merit in them. And so it was like, operationally, is there none? And we couldn't think of any operationally, but there's no denial that there may be some benefit to doing, an artist concept and saying within whatever amount of time, this is the at least idea now. So it's, as I said to the mayor, it was close to getting recommended to go into a budget, is the best way I can say it. And then decided that the operational benefit by the staff that we were reviewing, we didn't see as much of an operational benefit, so it didn't get in.
From my perspective, if you don't have updated image of what you're trying to do and a cost for it, it's hard to consider it at budget time next year. And this seems to be the rabbit hole loop that we're in. So anyway, that's why I'd like to see that added. And I, for me, it is an important thing because these are visions, again, properties we purchased, they're built into plans that we have. And $10,000 on a $40 million budget to show the community what our intents are, to me, is not, not inappropriate. It's something that we should be doing. Councillor DePlacy.
Yeah, I think that the value operationally is probably more of a concern of council, and it's to do with transparency and vision setting, not just for this council, but for the next councils. And I'd even like to go one step further of where we see like signage, right? Like you see in the private world all the time, future site of, and some depiction, right? To kind of create that transparency. And people saying, why'd you buy Anderson Mill? Well, this is why we bought it. It might not happen this year, it's not in the budget, but it's the intention and the vision, and it's an issue of transparency.
Yeah, thanks. Councillor Ross Robinson.
Thank you, Your Worship. I would have no problem with concept designs and that sort of thing, but I'd be reluctant to get a consultant or something to come in and say what needs to be done immediately and whatever else. Like we have 100 kilometers of road that need to be replaced, and we've got a multiplex that needs to be built, and we've got a lot of things on the go. So I'd have no problem spending the money on concept, and to Councillor DePlacy's point, putting the picture up and say the future site of in 5 years, 10 years, whatever it is. But I wouldn't want to spend the $10,000 to $50,000 this year for these concepts with the understanding that it's going to be shovels in the ground next year. That can't happen. We've got way too much to do.
Yeah, and I didn't, to be very clear, I'm not advocating for all of these to happen next year, and I was never advocating for detailed designs. That's another misunderstanding in this year's process, which to me was one of the
In my defense, I'm not putting words in your mouth. I'm saying that's what the...
No, you didn't. Yeah.
May I speak?
Yes.
So that's what the perception will be. We'll put this sign up and say future site of, And then the phone calls will start. Well, when are you going to do it? When are you going to do it? When are you going to do it? So if we're going to do this, which I'm fine with, there has to be some level of understanding that it's not an immediate project.
Yeah, and sorry, it was the manager who just said that my submission was for detailed drawings. So that was an inaccurate statement that I wanted to clarify. But my vision, which I'm still advocating for, was to have these lower level, 10 grand-ish concept drawings with a cost so that we can have that information, because it's my hope and expectation, it's in our strategic plan that we'll do a significant downtown renewal project every year. And this way we'll have updated costing and vision information. And there is no consultation involved in these. These are just drawings because we've already done the consultation on all of these things. So it's just giving somebody an inputs of what we want to see. And that's the part we've got to reaffirm as council through the year. We've got 12 months to do it, so that then we give them an input, they give us a picture and a costing that we can show the community and we can use to consider what ones we might do year over year, but with no expectation that it's all happening next year at all. That's, yeah, Councillor Harris.
Yeah, no, just to that point. So, Harkins is not a concept, though. Harkins is reality, I think, is why we're getting the property. So that will have to be a detailed. And like, out of that 60,000, how much is a detailed plan for that site going to? I just don't know the numbers.
It's 40
for a detailed one.
For the detailed one, that's what engineering department submitted for Harkins.
And 10 for a concept.
Yes. So then there's enough money there for 2 concepts, and I'm asking for 20,000 more to be added to the line item so we can have 4.
So if there's 80,000, that budget priority is given to the Harkins site first, to make sure that 40 could be 50 by the time we're done.
Absolutely.
We're not sure. And it could be down to 3, and there's no more money left in the budget because reserve is going to the multiplex, and that's what we're going to be doing.
Absolutely. And in that case, we'd still bring forward a vision conversation and see if we can find the funding elsewhere.
So the first one to come will be Harkins after that.
Yeah. So, Deputy Mayor, I don't know if you would be willing
Well,
to
look,
make a
I don't know
motion
if
for
we're
me.
at that point in the road, but it's consistent with everything we've done to this point. I would have no problem putting that motion if that should be the will. I would move that if.
Yeah, I would just not want to have to come back to this and have the same conversation again in a half an hour.
Yeah.
So,
So
yeah.
you want,
Yeah, just
now we're-
yeah. If you would like to make the motion to make the 20,000.
So I would make the motion, Your Worship, with all due respect, and to add $20,000 to that line item. Period. I think that's it.
That's it. Yep. And is there seconded by Councillor Duplessis? Any further discussion on the matter? Deputy Mayor Quinn, did you want to speak again? No. Okay, so with that, I'll call the vote. All those in favor? Aye. Opposed? Motion carries. Okay, so we'll continue on through recreation. Oh, yeah, sorry, Deputy Mayor Quinn.
Thank you, Your Worship. If we're continuing on, more observational than anything, just with the ongoing conversation of multiplex and recent happenings and goings on, I would like to just dial in a thank you to Directors Walsh and Gorman for their work here. Quick math here, the total of electricity and oil for Golden Hawk right now is at 176,936, quick math. And as Councillor Harris pointed out, estimated at 6%, which we know as of today is conservative at 2.9, the difference because it is at 8.9 now, and the volatility of the oil business. Just want to point that out, that in the ongoing story here to be told that as of right now, before us, without multipliers being changed, we're at 176,936, almost $177,000 for heat and electricity at the Golden Hawk, and I think that's worth noting here this evening, and grossly high.
Yeah. Certainly, I think with these new numbers, we should do up some information, a briefing, a quick one-pager or something to submit to RDC so that they are fully aware that costs are continuing to escalate in a non-sustainable way with these old buildings. Just a couple of quick, sorry, Councillor Arsenault, you go ahead. Just quickly, I guess, to the manager on Station Wharf Marina, or to whomever. It says that it is it's under maintenance. 100,000 or 99,000 will be the maintenance of Station Wharf Marina. But does that include the contract for the person that operates it on the city's behalf?
To Your Worship, it does include the contract and a couple other added things for some of the new docks that we're installing next spring.
Okay, and then also, like, what's the revenue that we bring in on the fees from the station wharf?
I don't have it right in front of me, and Nancy may have it. I think last year we might have had budgeted, if I remember right, last year we had budgeted $76,000. And out of that 76,000, 15,000 of it was for fuel sales, which we didn't get because we're still waiting on order for that fuel tank to come in. But I do believe that we had roughly 50,000 or a little over in revenue at Station Wharf last year.
Yeah, I'll wait for the director. I'm going to have the same question about the zip line, by the way. It's always, we see that, and this year, by all accounts, was our first full year. It was well attended, and I'd be curious to see on the zip line, it's budgeted in 2023 for 118, but what was the revenue we brought in from that item as well?
I'll just speak to the Station Wharf Marina. We had budgeted for 76.5. I'll have to check to see what the actuals were on that. But for the zip line, we had budgeted 25, but the actuals were 50.
Correct.
I believe for this
50?
year. Yeah.
Great. Okay, thank you. Councillor Arsenault.
Thanks. Just I'll probably be a bit all over the place here with this one, so I apologize. But number one, really happy to see the cost of winter operations in the dog park line. That is something that I hear almost daily. So really happy to see that budgeted, as will our fluffy friends be equally happy. I'm curious to know what the zip line numbers were for attendees this year, because I spent a couple of hours with them going through how they do it all, and was really quite amazed by what they do there and how they do it. So really looking forward to hearing how that went this summer, because it was a great year for it. And then just clarity, I guess, from the manager for myself moving forward. So the couple of items that I had put forward to include before we vote on the budget finally, do I need to cost those out and bring it forward now at this point? The two items that I had requested to be included, which was, again, the rollover of the mental health budget, and then the video and picture equipment for the zip line.
No, in the mental health one, it would just be an idea of what the initiative is, and we could cost them out on that one. On the video one, I should be able to check that. We did discuss it with either RecDev or Rec. We thought it was, as we understood it, the idea was that the city should either hire somebody or purchase the equipment to do photos and then sell them to the people. And we thought that might be a business opportunity better for private industry than the city taking a net cost on setting that up. I think that's what the background or the basis was on that one. So the idea may be viable if a private business wanted to do it. We just did not think that it was something the city should take at a net loss, and we weren't quite sure, what the revenues would be. So, but we can get the costing of some costing on that one if you wish.
Yeah, I guess I would have expected that somebody would have reached out to me at some point to ask, but my fault for not following up on both. So I'll know.
Your worship, to follow up on the Station Wharf question, the clerk has provided me with our revenue for this year, and it was just over 61,000.
Great. Thank you. Yeah, I think it's always helpful to provide both sides of those coins when we spend money and there's revenue coming in. So the real cost is not necessarily what's on the paper. Yeah. Just a question, coming back to Middle Island. I know we have had discussions with the Middle Island Commission regarding some changes there, and that the city assuming some of those operations around the maintenance and the restaurant. I see the proposed budget is to lower their grant by 38 so a $10,000 total. I guess, Mr. Manager, can you just explain what we would still, under this proposal, what would they still be responsible for with that 10K, and what would we be assuming, and are those covered by existing line items or represented elsewhere?
Yeah, the idea is from the conversation we had with the chair was that the city was going to assume responsibility for and control of the maintenance of the island, which we do some of now, and the operation or the RFPing of the restaurant, so somebody could run probably a canteen operation there. So we estimated that we have not heard back. The chairman said they would have a meeting with their committee. We hadn't heard back, so we're estimating $10,000 would be a request to run their museum because they were going to continue to run that. And so we were estimating that would be the reduction. The rest of it, the 38, was because we were allowing for some increased cost in the rec budget for that. That allows for staffing time and supplies. So it has been offset on that side. But the grant is a pure, estimate based on their previous activities.
Okay. For me, I'm more under the parts we're going to be assuming this will allow the washrooms to be accessible to the public moving forward.
My understanding is council will RFP that building, and whoever gets it will have to make a commitment that the washrooms in the facility will be open to the public.
Okay. Thanks. Yeah, Deputy Mayor.
Sorry, I jumped in on you. Sorry. No, you go ahead. No, you were first. Sorry.
Mike, on Middle Island itself, I don't think it's fair to this group of people. Just my feeling. Like COVID, they had COVID in the last couple of years before that, and this year they had all their kitchens, quite a bit of the kitchen stuff stolen, and they had a hard time getting students for fill in there. So I like to see bring them in again and have a chat with them and see and put it on the line what they can do and what they can't do. And I don't think we should cut that budget from 48 to 10. It's just my feeling on that. They do a lot of good work down there. I know they're trying to change their committee, some of them trying to get new committee members, but I think we should look at that differently.
Just to provide extra information, Councillor King, to council, just being maybe aware that we didn't close that loop either, but we did meet with their president and review some of these proposed changes.
I'm sorry, Your Worship. Who is the president?
John McLaughlin.
Okay, I heard everything. Okay.
That's the one that yeah. So we did and went through some of these proposed changes and seemed to have an open mind on those changes. And they, as the manager said, they were going to go back to the committee and have a meeting and come back to us. So there's an ongoing dialogue. I guess it's not finalized what's adjusting, but the pieces that we wanted to see happen based on the rec report were more accessibility for the community into the building, onto the island, and those types of things.
So you're saying, Your Worship, they haven't reported back yet?
That's correct. We haven't heard back. I don't know if they were having a meeting this week, or the councillor that's the appointee might be able to speak to that more than me, but we haven't heard back.
So we may have a different opinion on this budget item?
If we heard back something, it could shift. But the idea is that the reason why it's not a reduction in overall Middle Island, it's really a movement from them to us. So we're going to take over the maintenance of the island is the proposal, and they'll continue to get funding for the cultural components, for the museum, for the activities that happen there. So, to that point, if we do hear back and they say, to do that piece, they might require a little more. Certainly, I know I'd be open to that. We don't want to diminish their ability to do the pieces that they're going to keep, but it's transferring the maintenance and the building to the city's operations, and that's why some of the money is coming back to us, because we're going to do that part.
As long as we keep an open mind on it, that's all I care about.
Yes, and I don't know, sorry, Councillor, if there has been the meeting yet to your knowledge, I guess was the question.
Mr. McLaughlin and I have been playing phone tag.
Okay, good. So we'll keep tracking it, Councillor, between now and a final budget. And then just a quick question to the director. The 10K that's added for the Howard Street Park, could you just speak to what that is?
Sure. The 10K that's, sorry, Your Worship, the 10K for the Howard Street Park is a new line item altogether into the budget. That money would be identified as operational budget for the park, which will cover operating budget for both the outdoor rink and as well as the skate park maintenance, which was a separate line item at one point at the Golden Hawk. So there was $3,000 transferred, and then the extra funding is, for that area itself to keep it up to snuff with maintenance and power cost, etc.
Is the intention to keep a porta potty there? I know that there seemed to be one there most of the summer this year.
At this point, yes. That's what we will have available there for bathrooms. My understanding is it would take significant cost to be able to put permanent washrooms in there, and due to the property and what's available for services.
Yeah. No, fair. I mean, there was never an expectation of one, but just curious. Thanks. Okay, Councillor Summers.
Sorry, just a couple of quick ones there for Director Walsh. Under one-time increase under playing fields, you have Memorial Field track and the decommissioning of JMH ball field at $35,000. I always sort of some gray area there. Is JMH ball field technically owned by us or the province of New Brunswick?
Through the chair to Councillor Summers. So the James M. Hill ball field, I believe, is part of a land use agreement that the city had with the former school district. The field itself was ours as part of our 2018 plan due to lack of use and major upgrades needed. And the 2018 plan was decided to be able to be one of the facilities that we closed, similar to Heath Steel Field, Cardinal Park. Haven't had the opportunity to actually fully decommission the field yet. We were supposed to get at that this year. We didn't have a chance to be able to review that joint use agreement with the school district to, look at some of these issues. It's something that I'd like to put on the docket and make sure that we can get those conversations started about the full decommissioning of that.
Yeah, still to you, Councillor.
And I'm not sure if it's possible or not, but is there anything from that ball field that can be repurposed at any of our other many ball fields around the community? Or is it basically just tear down?
Through the chair to Councillor Summers. So the price was, when we did the initial costing of that, the only thing that we were looking at possibly being able to salvage was the standardized dugouts, if needed to be used for another field. But looking at the cost, sometimes by the time you buy a new section of it, but you're moving them out of there and relocating them. The pricing is very similar to buy new sometimes than it is to recuperate the old, but as part of that pricing, it was to salvage the dugouts anyway. Everything else was to be removed.
Yeah, absolutely.
Can you just give me specifics on Memorial Field track as far as that line item? What's the plan there?
Through the chair to Councillor Summers is just to complete the track around the outside, the back side of the ball field from center field up to our maintenance shed was still sandstone, where the rest was crusher dust trail when we did the upgrades with the warning track. So it was just to finish up that work.
Yeah. No.
It's a minor one, but I know Councillor King has had a few conversations with a few of the residents in this area, and so have I, and I know he's asked about it a few times. And this may be for you or it may be for Director Shanahan, but upgrades to Farah Park, my apologies, another $5,000 to make it $11,500. I guess my ultimate question is that enough to get said fountain up and operating? Because I know it did come back to us that it was going to be more. I'm hoping that fountain's going in 2023.
To the chair to Councillor Summers, my understanding that added funding would allow for that, is my understanding. And allow for some other upgrades as well.
Great. Me too. Deputy Mayor Quinn.
Thank you, Your Worship. I don't know who this is directed at, perhaps Director Walsh or Manager Noel, or perhaps yourself, Your Worship. I'm seeing a line here of consultant one-time increase for a fundraising initiative with respect to the multiplex of $80,000. Just some clarification there. Oh, sorry.
No, I'll deal with it. when we, was a few years ago now, we were going down the road with confidence that multiplex was going to come in, and we had actually engaged and talked to a consultant on the fundraising aspect, and we had gotten a price of six figures, a little over $100,000 to do that. We thought that was a little high, but council never, council never signed an agreement, because obviously to raise money on something that we are still 3 years later would have been problematic. 3 years later, we don't have it. So the idea is we are confident that we are going to have funding made available soon. And if we do, that means fundraising should start in 2023. So we are putting that figure in there as a reduced estimate of what we were told the last consultant wanted to do that.
Yep.
Thank you, Manager Mike. I'm just wondering, shooting from the hip here, is there a possibility that that person exists in-house and rather than going outward bound for a consultant?
From the presentations we got, the short answer is no. When you're going out to raise $4 to $5 million, there seems to be a pattern or a plan that people employ. And some of these big projects you see around the province, they are employing consultants to do that. It is somewhat of a specialty, I guess, or it's a knack.
And just to build on that too, like it's engaging an expert that also is going to work with a committee that we will have to establish. That's led by people in the community, business leaders, sport enthusiasts. So, I think this is something that we've just been waiting to get to, that we knew was going to happen. And to the manager's point, 2023, by all accounts, feels like it's the year that a lot of things are going to move on this file, including the beginning of raising that $4 to $5 million. Yeah. Councillor Harris, did you do it? Good. Okay. We'll keep going on the clerk. So the next department is clerk, and again, we can come back to anything on rec if there is anything. Clerk and public works, I guess, because clerk is very small, so I'll open it up to clerk and public works for any questions or comments. And I just have one. And maybe it's just more for clarity, because earlier in the general government budget, like all of the adjustments and increases regarding the Regional Service Commission were covered there. But we have the increase to the tipping fee that is covered here. And so I guess I just want to make sure that we're not increasing tipping fees twice by accident, but also then, if all the increases are in one area, should the tipping, I guess why is the tipping fee separate from all of the other RSC line items? Maybe is the question then.
Because it falls under the solid waste or waste area, which kind of falls under public works.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, but we're definitely not inadvertently budgeting twice for increased tipping fees. Okay, thanks. Councillor Duplessis.
I guess under the clerks, or it's not under the clerks, and that's therefore my question. Through your chair to maybe the city manager, the derelict properties, previously we budgeted to deal with derelict properties. We were going through costing to establish targeted projects, and I know there's a back end of that with the province. So just a bit of an update on that, and what kind of level of work can we expect to have done with derelict property, specifically ones that are on the side of Highway 11 and huge and ugly?
So the budgeting for derelict property or unsightly premises cleanup was removed because it was determined it's in fact what we expect to be a recoverable expense. So to budget it when we know we expect to get our money back, it was an accounting, why budget it? Because we are proceeding. So it will not stop any of the demolitions. The fact there's no budget. On a positive side, as of 2 days ago, I guess, we've been advised by the government that we will be able to proceed on two of our most noteworthy large demolitions with an expectation of receiving full compensation back. So we will be looking, starting with the base, the former officers' mess, former Seashells, and then looking at Zellers. So I had a conversation with the deputy minister, and I know the clerk's looking for details from finance, because things like the study we have to do to find out how much lead paint and asbestos is in there is probably something that won't be covered. So we're trying to figure out the details. So on the positive side, those files look like they will be moving in 2023, at least one of them for sure.
But there will be a budget, there will be expenses associated with that, is that what I'm hearing?
There could be on Seashells, you know. Yeah, and we'll do it under the studies one, but that is there's not much left, we understand, inside the Zellers building. It's been totally gutted by the people that have been in there. But the Seashells restaurant is a little different. As a legacy from the base, we have full expectation of lead paint, which seems strange, but will have to be scraped off the railings and et cetera before the building is demolished. We had that experience once before when we tore down. And I believe the same with asbestos. So, we're going to start doing those evaluations ASAP with the expectation of starting on those in 23.
So if there's no further questions or comments on Public Works right now, we're going to move into Economic Development and Tourism, and we just need a couple minutes for the clerk to phone in Director McTavish, so he'll be on the line to answer our questions. So just take a couple minutes for the clerk to dial him in, and I'm going to do a quick bio break. moment. Oh, Councillor Duplessis, we'll go to you first.
And understanding that there might be some surprises under your hat with it, but there's a line item for $70,000 from Canada Day event, which Canada has always been a hot potato. So where are we looking to place those extra expenditures, if I can just ask that question?
Through the chair to Councillor Duplessis, right now there's a budget of about $50,000, and although it says Canada Day event, it should be clarified that it's actually just a special event.
Okay.
We have, and it may take place during Canada Day. We're trying to find out if the Rock and Roll Festival is going to switch back to their original date, or if they're going to keep their August. So we certainly don't want to cannibalize anything that's going on there, but we have been in contact with a couple of event promoters that basically their price tag is around the $50,000 range. That's kind of high impact event, adrenaline sport, you might want to call it. So anyways, right now it's just a budget item because that's process. We haven't signed anything yet or confirmed anything. We want the budget there for council's consideration. And then in the new year, once we have a chance to, if it's approved, to sit down at the committee level and discuss with council what we would like to do with those events, with that funding source.
Thank you, Director. And then my other question is around photography and video assets. I feel like we've been kind of using a lot of those same assets for the last 4 or 5 years, and relevancy is important with that. Is there a budget line there that we could point to that would encompass getting refreshed video and photography assets?
Again, through the chair to Councillor Duplessis, under the regional tourism promotion, you don't see it here because there was no change in the budget. It's actually still $125,000 this year, but there is funding within that budget. So that's not only for the purchase of ad space in magazines or radio or digitally. That is also for the development of those, which includes photography and videography.
And then I'll come back to my previous question, if I can, Your Worship.
Yep.
Around the graphic design that we saw in the communication budget, I know you had always had a budget for that kind of work. Is that something that is that still in your budget? Is there 2 graphic design budgets, or is that going to be kind of shifted over to the communications lines?
Again, through the chair to Councillor Duplessis, no, there's still funding within our budget to get graphic design work done, but as the manager had indicated, we've had the same graphic designer for quite some time now, and we're very happy with the work that the individual does. But in fairness to other graphic designers in the area, it's probably time that we went out to RFP. So as the manager indicated, it is our intention to go to RFP to secure graphic design services next year.
And just roughly, what would be the budgeted amount that you have in your budget for graphic design work?
We use her quite regularly, so it's again about 20 hours a week at a rate of $50 an hour. So it's close to $40,000 to $50,000 a year.
So just to clarify, total, we'd be looking to spend almost $80,000 on graphic design for 2023?
Yes, I guess so. If we include the communications part for sure, and then whatever recreation does too. So there's certainly a budget there.
I would get a pencil sharpener.
At that we could hire a full-time in-house graphic designer for less than that.
Thank you. Thank you, Director.
Well,
Deputy Mayor Quinn.
Thank you, Your Worship. Director McTavish. I see here one line item that says recreational fishery, increased level of service. Is that to leave the docks in later? Is to extend the season, or what is that?
Through the chair to Deputy Mayor Quinn, what that is as you know, the striped bass recreational fishery is certainly gaining popularity. We're getting increased calls during the first 2 weeks of May to have our docks in so that people can enjoy the fishery. And again, in the fall, we had Fishing Canada here in the last couple of weeks that filmed an episode of fall fishing, which I think, according to them, it was one of their best episodes as far as catching fish on topwater. So we expect there to be, if not the same amount of boats, more boats in the fall coming to Miramichi to enjoy this fishery. So what the idea is a partnership with Miramichi Boating and Yacht Club for them to open up 2 weeks early and provide services there until recreation can get their docks in the water when, all the driftwood and the tides are done running everything down, because ours are a little more exposed, where Miramichi Boating and Yacht Club. So it's basically a budget of 6 weeks of service with Miramichi Boating and Yacht Club, 2 in the spring, the first 2 weeks in May, and then 4 weeks in October, which will allow recreation to pull out the majority of their docks, but leave some at Ritchie Wharf and at Station Wharf to allow people to still get in and out of the water.
Lovely. I like that. Thank you.
Couple questions. Director McTavish from me. Just to go back to the tourism special events item. So you mentioned that about $50K is earmarked there for an adrenaline type event that we'll get more details on later. What's the other $20K in that line item for?
Just one moment. I'm just going to open up my document here. Just please bear with me. I'm flipping between screens.
The suspense is killing me.
All right. That's special events. What line item is that, Mayor Lorden? Sorry.
It's under tourism special events, the one that references Canada Day. It's under 6130 tourism promotions and then tourism special events.
Okay. Oh, sorry. The other 20,000 is under. For the last couple of years, we've been promoting Halloween and events around Halloween. So we have a budget of $20,000 to put that promotion together, which helps offset some of the nonprofits' operational costs to put those events on. So we partner with the Beaverbrook House. We partner with the Point Church, the Downtown Newcastle Business Association, the Historic Chatham Business Association. So it's $20,000 to promote that, basically to try to bridge the gap between summer when all of our festivals end and the fall, and then getting into winter. So it's the fall event.
Okay, thank you. Just another explanation, Director McTavish. Under the Miramichi Visitor Guide, an increase of $10,000 to go back to pre-COVID costs. I'm just curious about that because, the world's sort of moving away from hard copy items, and if we've gone to a reduced level of print, maybe we should stay there. And a lot of people don't even do the print documents anymore, or they're very streamlined and smaller. So I guess just maybe a little bit about sort of why your recommendation is to increase the budget and go back to more print.
To Mayor Lorden, we've reduced our numbers greatly over the past, since 2020. And what we've found is instead of having a surplus, we're running out. So like right now, I'd be hard pressed to find 50 City of Miramichi guides anywhere in the city. So we're running out before the end of the season. That's happening a lot later. So what our plan is we have a number of displays that we purchased last year that we have the key locations through the summer months, and we have distribution to those on a weekly basis. So our Economic Development Tourism Administrator is driving around making sure that those are populated. And believe it or not, although part of the world is not using paper as much, they seem to really love our tourism guides because we run out, like they're We're running low before even the end of the summer. We're kind of scrambling just to keep our information filled at our VIC. So this won't get us to exactly the same amount because, of course, prices have increased everywhere. But we believe it's the right level of guide.
And we will, in 2023, Director, have the rollout of some of those digital touch machines as well, right, throughout the city?
Yeah, that's correct. We've purchased one this year. It's currently getting populated with the digital information. We're going to test one in the lobby just to make sure that, because of course these are going to be remote, we're going to focus on indoor ones to begin with, and then we'll look at outdoor ones. But we want to make sure that functionally we can program this from our office. So our tourism marketing officer is working with the company to get the first version of this up, and then we're going to try to see how it works when we want to make changes to it. So how simple is the program that we're using? And once we're confident that we can do this with either a Wi-Fi signal or a hard line, we'll be coming back to council to look at purchasing a few more of these items.
Great, and I would imagine that would displace paper copies over time as well, and the app too.
I would say so, yeah.
Yeah. Okay. So then, just moving on, a couple of other ones for you, Director McTavish. I understand that there was a proposal submitted by Mr. Vickers, which to proceed with a partnership on the Busker Fest and the Chalk Festival with the city for 2023. I don't see anything in your budget regarding those events. So I guess would I take that to assume then that you're not recommending moving forward with that proposal?
That's correct.
Okay. And have you had discussions with Historic Chatham about those events continuing in any form? I mean, certainly they are, from my perspective, they bring value to the community. It would be great to see them continue if at all possible.
I've been, of course, I'm up at a conference in Evanston. I've been playing phone tag with the president, Mr. Janot, today, and a little bit, well, he said he called me yesterday, but I must have been in the Plaster Rock because I didn't get a voicemail or anything. So anyway, I am playing phone tag with him, and I hope to be able to contact him in the coming days about whether Historic Chatham Business District is still interested in hosting those events. But those events fell under our festival and events grant, so that the money's already there as far as the budget goes.
Okay.
But Mr. Vickers' request as an individual, I don't have like a program that can support what he's looking to do.
Right, of course, which is why it would have to appear as a special budget line like an adrenaline event. But I'll take your recommendation. I haven't seen it. I'm not advocating that you do it. I'm just asking, and I'll take your recommendation that that's not the best model moving forward.
Yeah.
I will, and last one from me to you, Director. One of the items that I submitted in my budget, the operational budget considerations was, again, if we needed to budget for additional resources to help with the execution of the Striper Cup. We had, before COVID, come up with a new plan that was going to engage external resources more so that it would take up less staff time. Then, of course, COVID happened, and this year it felt like, I know other councillors had expressed this as well, that the department, wasn't, and yourself, wasn't always available for some of the other priority items because of Striper Cup. I know you said that you have a new proposal for next year that we haven't seen yet, but I guess so. Your new proposal for Striper Cup doesn't include any extra costing, but is that proposal going to include making sure that staff are available for other priorities, in the months leading up? I understand May will be tied up, but in March and April, it's difficult to be told that other things can't happen because of Striper Cup.
Again, Mayor Lord, I'm unsure what things could not happen because our staff was involved, but we certainly take the event very seriously. It's a big economic generator for the community. It is an all-hands-on-deck type of event, and we work really hard to execute it properly for the benefit of the community. But what I can say to you is that the biggest time constraint for us has to do with registration. and because we open it up very early. But and that involves youth and the individual division primarily, because that's where we get really thousands of people registering, but we don't generate a lot of money. So what we're proposing for this year is still including some type of activities for individuals and youth, but not running a competitive division for those categories, which will save us thousands of dollars as far as cost goes, but also free up staff time because we'll only have to focus on between 200 and 300 team events or teams, which will certainly allow us more time. But leading up to the event, there's still probably about a week in total time that each of us will be involved, like Mr. McGraw on his logistics side, Amanda on her marketing side, myself on some of the other logistics. During the weekend, there's about a week again of total hours that we put in, about 30 to 35 hours, and then a couple of hours afterwards just on the cleanup. So we do anticipate this will free up time, and again, we certainly did not place anything on the back order intentionally, if that's the way it felt. We were just trying to execute the event the best we could.
Okay, so then my last question on that then is your new proposal for 2023, which we'll look forward to getting in detail at another time on a committee meeting, that as envisioned, that will not take staff away from continued work on established priorities in the economic development strategic plan.
No, again, I'm unaware of what things we did not execute because of it, but no, I don't intend that. I don't foresee that.
Okay, thank you. Yep, Deputy Mayor Quinn.
Thank you, Your Worship. Just one question or observation. I don't know if this is directed at Director McTavish or Director Gorman. I look at 6930, his Miramichi Natural History Museum of $2,700. Is that an ask, or how do we arrive at such a odd number, I guess would be the question.
Their grant that they receive, I believe, is $2,500 annually, and then there's another additional $200 in there for property taxes. We pay theirs as well.
Follow up, if I may?
Absolutely.
And they're comfortable at $2,500 plus their property taxes? It just seems decidedly low for their preservation. You know, I've long admired from afar their service to the community. Okay.
So a few years ago, we had changed our grant process. So they used to get their money through the long-winded $185,000 giveaway that we did every budget year. Anyway, so that ended, and they lost their opportunity to get assistance, whether it was for their insurance or their heat or whatever it was. And Mr. O'Reilly made his case to have at least a stipend to offset some of his costs, and I'm sure they could use more. But we I think it was in 2019 started with $2,500, and it's gone from there.
So at this point, I guess we're through all of the departments. Before we move to the utility budget, if there are any other items, questions or comments of things that didn't come up that maybe councillors had submitted, or again, our existing items that aren't changing, but you might have questions on. I just have one additional one myself, and it's on the wages section. We had, I think it was mentioned earlier this evening, additional 2 temps for the recreation. So it was flagged in the outdoor rec plan that we may be a little short in that regard. But it says here 2 additional seasonal temps would cost $150,000. So I guess just a little clarity on that. Yeah.
Actually, that's a bit of a typo. There's going to be 2 additional seasonal workers, and they run about $50K a year with Jason, and then there'll be 2 temps just for the skating trail between January and March, and so that's about another 50.
So roughly $27,000 to $30,000, I think, is what we figured out for the
Okay.
So each of the temps for the skating trail, there's 2 for the skating trail, and they're about $25 each, and then the 2 additional seasonal would be for the duration of the summer. And those are $50K is what, okay, good, thank you. does, yeah, it does seem 50K for a seasonal summer worker does seem a little high. Maybe could someone speak to that a little bit? Oh, go ahead, Councillor King.
Thank you, Your Worship. Just on this, Mike, is, I don't see any money in here for expropriation of land, or is that coming under capital?
The land purchases, the idea is once council confirms it, we intend to take the money from reserve. So there is no budgeting for it until it's a certainty, but there's an expectation that council will be acquiring land in 2023. And the recommendation when you make that a certainty would be to take those funds from reserve.
Is fine, but will that be done for this winter, before this winter's over?
I expect some of those decisions, yes, would be made by February.
I can tell you, Councillor, I think on the item that you're referring to, I will look forward to bringing that first thing in January. Yep, both of them, first thing in January. Councillor Ross Robinson.
Thank you, Your Worship. I just want to thank the treasurer and the staff for putting this all together. I think this is, you know, it's not a fun process for anybody, especially for you guys and for us too. And I didn't have any specific asks on the budget, but I like how it looks, and I think it's going to work out well. One thing I would like for all of us to consider for next year, and I brought it up a few years ago, and I don't think we were there yet, but I think we're getting to that point where we have to consider like a central store. So each department has so much paper and so many phones and so much of this, that, and the other thing. Like I believe that we've grown enough that it's something to consider going forward, because we do have a lot of waste. You know, look at our desks covered in paper. Like I think there's ways to trim the fat that way. But anyway, that's all I wanted to say was thanks for all of it, and I look forward to next week to get her done.
Yeah. No, so yes, thank yous are well deserved. We aren't done. So again, anything else on the general operating before I flip us over to utility? But Deputy Mayor Quinn, I think it's to you first.
Yeah, I think you had asked, Your Worship, with all due respect, for further clarification on that 2 temps and the 150,000. Can you break that down slowly so I can follow along?
Can I send it to you tomorrow, the exact breakdown?
Okay. Yeah, I think specifically the clarity around how does a summer temp worker cost $50,000, I think is the question. Okay. Right, Deputy Mayor?
Well, sorry. Yeah. That is what they are. That's what they are. How many benefits too, right? You gotta.
Benefits, hourly over age 40 hours.
Seasonal workers, seasonal temporary workers get benefits?
Well, there's CPP, workers' comp.
Okay. Sure.
Those are all mandatory.
So I'm sorry, maybe I misunderstood, and I'll apologize for that. I thought the 50,000 was for your skating trail staff, or am I way out to lunch on that?
Rough estimate on the skating trail staff from when I was doing the initial budgets was before we looked at, before we added the benefits on, somewhere around the $27,000 to $30,000 for 2 temps for those 10 weeks.
Okay. Good. Councillor Harris?
Yeah, I just want to go back to that skating trail, because I know we talked about it last week or 2 weeks ago. The design and everything of it, Director Walsh, and having it staffed, like, I like to have a price, you know, what that's going to detail. And also, what are you designing? Are we going to have what we had last winter at the LBA? If that's what we're having, I'm probably not one bit interested, because it was a disaster. Not in your fault, but the weather and the way everything was over there. I just, you know, it's to a point earlier someone made, like, to design it and then do it right, instead of spending, you know what, council pushed last year for that skating oval because of COVID, and we were being told we got to get outside, and, you know, whatever. Looking back, I don't know if I would have pushed for it. I really don't, because I had more people complain to me than I had people say thank you. So I really don't know, and I don't want to get into that this year. So I'd like to have more detail on that, and you know what, if there's details that got to come back, and if it's next week we get this done, or in 3 weeks we get this done, I don't care. it's just a matter of, I want to know what the details are in that. And also, and that's the other point, to Councillor King's point about a reserve, it's easy to say we're going to take the money out of reserve right now because we're flush with a reserve. But that reserve's is going to be used a lot over the next year or two. And pretty soon, I'd like to have a number of what are we healthy with? What kind of reserve do we want there? And to me, a reserve is for an emergency. Buying land is not an emergency. So if we should have to put something in budget for that, because I know what Councillor King and Mayor Lorden are alluding to, maybe it's something we should look at. But just to always say we're going to take it from reserve, or we have a budget, we have a capital project this year and it comes in over cost, we got to take it from reserve. Them days could be coming to an end here for this city, and we've had it pretty good, and council before have it pretty good, but reserves are going to be eaten up here very shortly, and we have to be very noticeable of that. So that's my only comment.
Thank you, Councillor. It has been counterintuitive as we've shifted under the direction of the mayor and treasurer to that model of don't budget it, just take it from reserve. It does always feel counterintuitive. So it's, and I know the manager has said before that we will soon have a discussion about what a targeted level to have in the reserve would be. So I'll look forward to that too. Now I'm going to flip the channel. I guess anybody can come back to the general operating if they would like to in any way. But I'm going to ask if there are any questions or comments regarding the utility operating budget as being presented as well. And I just to remind everyone, as the treasurer mentioned at the beginning of this meeting, that this proposed utility budget includes proposed increases of 3.5 cents. Was it? Yeah. On the 3.5% on the average water bill. Yeah. So. Okay, so. If there are any, I guess back to again on utility or on the general. I don't know, Councillor Arsenault on the. I guess to go back, the only thing that we didn't really seem to settle was the mental health piece, or what was the plan there, Mr. Manager? Sorry.
Well, if you want, you can put it in the budget, that amount, and then come up with the plan. What we've been doing as staff is looking for a plan and budgeting it. But if you're certain that you're going to do a
right. Well, not to be fair, not all of the staff, Director McTavish, is advocating to put items in the budget that are not yet defined either. So I think there should be one set of rules for everyone. But yeah, did you want to propose adding anything now? Councillor Arsenault, I guess, is the question. Do you know how much it cost, the rough estimate of what you were proposing was?
No, but having, I guess, had the heads up a month or so ago that it was required, I would have. So I will do that tomorrow for both initiatives that I had looked to include, and send that back, and then we can discuss it when we vote, I guess.
Okay. So, Mr. Manager, if this concludes tonight's discussions, to you or to the treasurer, what's the next step now in the process?
Well, I'd like to just, if we could look at the general capital again real quickly as we wrap up, because after the operating budget has been completed and I supported everything that needed to be supported under that side, then what's remaining is usually goes to capital, can be used for capital from revenue. So if you look at your capital, it's kind of a breakdown of historically past years of what we've spent on capital and the sources of funding for that. As you can see, we're a little out of range this year, but mostly due to the multiplex. In some cases, as that $6,604,000 under other government support, like I think $5 million of that is the multiplex, but. The borrowing is tight, like we're at 4.3. I wouldn't want to borrow any more this year, as historically, as you can see, we're kind of stay in that range, and it's close to the range of the amount that we're paying down each year, so that we're we're staying around that same line. We're not going further into debt, so to speak, and we want to leave capacity there for when we need to borrow for the multiplex. And then the reserve, as you can see, is there's a fair amount coming out of reserve towards multiplex again and a few smaller projects. So I wouldn't want to dip any further into reserve because, as we mentioned earlier, we do need to keep a fair portion of that for the multiplex as well as for some projects from prior years that are starting to get completed now. And there's a fire truck, that we're going to be needing to replace that I believe will be coming out of that as an emergency purchase. And we don't want to deplete the fund altogether, as Councillor Harris has mentioned. So that leaves just capital from revenue. So as I've indicated, right now, the projects themselves, there's a need for 5.7 plus capital from revenue, but there's only 4.5 available once this budget's been completed. So we have a shortfall of 1.1 million, and we'll have to look at cutting some capital projects. So I'm not sure how council wants to approach this. If you'd like, staff could go back and come back with another recommended list or.
Yeah, I would just suggest and propose that ultimately, we, and sort of in line with what happens elsewhere, we've now sort of communicated, we've indicated the things that we'd like to see in that weren't in. We've made general comments. So I would propose that you come back with a final capital that balances your budget, which acknowledges that means 1.1 million in capital needs to be trimmed. I'd start from a place of you making those recommendations, and then council can further, if they want to adjust on that. But I would suggest, if council's okay, that we have the treasurer recommends where the 1.1 comes from as a starting point to that conversation, rather than us trying to do it by committee. I don't know how everyone feels about that. Yeah, Councillor Ross Robinson.
Thank you, Your Worship. I don't know how I feel about that. Some people at the table were quite vocal through the whole process, and some people at the table were not very vocal during the process. And so their opinions really weren't known unless their facial expressions were being monitored the whole time. So I don't know if that's fair. I think, ultimately it is our decision what is and isn't in the budget, and I think we should be having that conversation.
Great. Councillor Duplessis.
Just as I look, there's a number of items that are highlighted in green. What's that to indicate?
Those are projects that are eligible for RDC partnership.
Yes.
Yeah, I guess we can do it either one of two ways. Council can do it by committee or council ultimately still decides if a recommendation comes from the treasurer as a starting point. Ultimately, I would also suggest that this is new information, so I haven't reviewed myself the capital list, and I'm not prepared personally to have the conversation tonight. I would absolutely, let's have it as a council if that's the preferred way, but I would suggest that it's not tonight, since we didn't know that we would be having that discussion tonight, and it's pretty significant. So I don't know if the manager has any suggestions of how to proceed.
No. As I say, it's what council's will is, and obviously it's picking a day then to have these discussions.
Yeah.
Between now and next week.
So I'm not sure, or I guess to the treasurer, do you have any suggestions of how to?
I would suggest that it can't wait till next week. I would like to have a final budget within the next couple of days so that I can.
Well, we did have Thursday earmarked for.
Yeah. What about a lunch hour? Would that be, I hate to bring everybody in here for Thursday night, but Thursday noon or?
Yeah, I'm out of town for personal work. I think Councillor Ross Robinson's not available either. So Thursday at noon. Is everyone available? Can get up nice and early Thursday and make sure I get back from Halifax in time. Thursday at noon. Yeah.
What about Sam?
Oh, Councillor Johnston, are you available Thursday at noon? And what we'll do is make sure that the volume's working again so we can hear you on Thursday as well. Yeah. Okay. So Thursday at noon to with a subject of capital budget and aiming to remove 1.1 million. Yep, Councillor Ross Robinson.
Thank you. So you would like us to remove a minimum of that amount? Otherwise, taxes have to go up? Okay. And if taxes have to go up, I know years ago, I don't know what the number is now, but 1 cent meant 150 grand. So what is it now?
It's about 179,000, so.
So I guess to members of council, please have a review. And I know that some things were proposed to be added. So Director Gorman, could you circulate tomorrow morning the updated proposed capital list as it stands? And I'd ask each member of council to review that before Thursday at noon, so that you know everyone can come in with their ideas or suggestions, and hopefully we would have some consensus. If that makes sense. Yeah. Okay. And I would, I guess, invite the treasurer and the manager to do the same on behalf of the staff who do provide us recommendations. That is your role here as well. So with that, then I guess if there's anything else, and if not, I'll ask for and so then just to be clear then, actually, if we want a full proposed budget by Tuesday, should we Thursday be the day where the additional information comes back on the operating side too for Councillor Arsenault?
Yeah,
Okay.
Yeah, I was gonna say that.
Okay.
So any changes to either budget, and what about your tax multiplier? The multiplier, where we would have 1.6?
That's oh.
Yeah, I'm just,
Yeah.
want to be sure.
Yeah,
that
yeah. I
it's
mean,
not-
nobody's brought up proposing to change it. That's what's proposed by the
Yeah.
treasurer. Yeah, Deputy Mayor Quinn, and then
Just on a question, I'm just going back to operation to fire. Last week we had a discussion about a report from years ago that we're supposed to get information back to if we're going to add it to this budget or not. Is that information back, or where are we stand on that? Because if Director Gorman wants a budget completed by Thursday to present a number, then we would need everything.
Yeah, we will try to have that information by tomorrow. We've worked on it. I haven't had a meeting scheduled, have one scheduled with the fire chief for Tuesday morning. At this point, I don't anticipate that being a budget increase item to get the, I don't anticipate having to put that in the budget. There's a question of Paul Max's role moving forward. That's what I understood what we were talking about, Paul Max's role moving forward. Yeah, at funding the last piece. And I went back over the Paul Max report, and while I understand it seems to be general convention that Paul Max was going to come back and finish their report, the report seems to indicate that Paul Max's recommendation was actually that the fire department get the stats and bring them to council so council can make that call, not that they come back into town and finish a report. So that's why I said I don't see it as necessarily a budget item. But I would have that for you by Thursday. It's,
That's what you're saying.
well,
I'm
it's-
just lost on the mic because I don't know how council is the expert on fire service.
I
To look
understand.
at- To look at data. I'm not.
No.
If anyone on the table is, maybe I'll ask them to put their name in for fire chief.
But I guess what I'm saying is, I understood Paul Max in the report says that the fire department should be able to interpret that data and make recommendations to council. and not bring Polmax in to interpret it, which seemed to have been the general understanding of the Polmax report. But the stuff when I reviewed the Polmax report again this morning, it seems to indicate that the fire department's to compile that data and make a recommendation to council. It wasn't to bring Polmax back. That's, I guess, what I can tell you.
I understand. Yeah. I understand that. It's just not what left here last Tuesday night. What left here last Tuesday night was to get the data, not to be presented by the fire department, presented by an outside source. That's what was left on the table here last Tuesday night.
And that's fine, and I'll get that price. I guess I thought it was not an instruction from council as much as council's understanding of that's what the recommendation was 5 years ago. And so if it's not the recommendation, does council want to hire Polmax to make a recommendation? So I will have the cost of that by Thursday if you wish to bring Polmax back to give you the recommendation.
I'm not sure if it was specific to recommendations, but I did and continue to have an interest in engaging them or somebody to put together some information for us about different standards, different levels of service, comparables to other communities, and not just as it relates to one end of the spectrum, but the full spectrum. So I had an interest in getting that work, but if you're telling me that it can be done internally by the department, but I'd be very interested in, the terms of reference and determining internal or external. And if it's external, then, I would be interested in allocating some funding myself. Yeah.
And if it's external, I'll have the number.
Yeah. Okay. Okay. Anything else? So with that, I'll ask for a motion to adjourn, please. Moved by Councillor Summers, seconded by Councillor Harris. On the question, all those in favor? Aye. Opposed? Motion carries. Meeting is adjourned. Oh, before I adjourn, just for, if anyone is still watching out there, don't forget that Friday is Remembrance Day, and there are services happening around the community, so please attend one of those if you can. Thank you so much.